Hello guys, welcome back to another episode of our market review session with us here at EasyFX Academy. And without taking too much of our time, I'm just going to go straight into the charts today. All right, I don't necessarily have so much, all right, from what I've analyzed so far, but I'd love to share, what I believe should be our outlook, or can at least help you on your trading journey this week. So let's start from gold, right? Everybody's favorite commodity. I think on Friday we had the fact that there was a news release that gave us a massive spike off of gold. All right, this very, very large impulsive candle here. All right, so that was, very interesting move to, see. So let's start from the daily time frame, possibly. Let's go from the daily time frame. All right, I think from the daily time frame, if we consider what we've seen for the past couple of weeks, maybe since last week and this week, you see that gold, am I correct? Yeah, around last week, I believe that was around last week, yeah. All right, and then from what we are seeing right now, gold so this week has been giving us bullish price action. This was around the 20th of August or so, around last week Tuesday, right? So we've been seeing a sort of bullish, price action from gold since then. Now this week, however, let me just mark out some points quickly before I move on. So I'm going to mark out some points I believe we should take note of. All right, and then we'll use that to work on, or to give ourselves an understanding or a bias, so to speak, for what we should expect. Overall, I think if we're looking out for sales at all on gold, I have to. Okay, yeah, this is still quite valid. All right, I have two regions I'm looking out for sales, or two sell POIs as it was on gold. First one is here. All right, this is between 3398.56 and 3381.25, and the second sell POI, which I think I mentioned last week, is between 3434.34 and they have 3416.30. Right, those are my two sell POIs. Now, however, I still have many things I want to note. I want us to note rather. Due to the release of the news last week, right, we had this very beautiful imbalance being created, and we still have the fact that that imbalance hasn't even been filled, even up to 50%. Right, let's just quickly measure it out. So let's see where the 50% of that imbalance should be. Let's say, yeah. So at the very least, I'd expect price at least, still give us a little bit of a drop, at least maybe towards this point. So what I'm trying to say right now, what I'm trying to say right now is very, very simple. I still expect gold to maybe give us a little bit of a push towards the upside, maybe just a little bit more, right? Possibly into this region that we already called here, all right, and then maybe we can get the drop. So if you are trading gold, specifically if you are a swing trader, I would advise you to be careful. Maybe on this trade, you can easily watch out for price to at least drop or rise rather, towards the 50% of this region before entering for the sales. And then if you are whenever you're on the sales at the very least, this is a very good point. So if you're taking it for the long run, so to speak, so just stop your trade. That'll be around 3355.96. So my bias currently on gold will be a little bit of a buy. I still want to see price push up a little bit, and then we get that buy, and then we can see the sell. So basically, at the very least, I expect that sell to stop here at the very least. Right? Obviously, we still have like I said, imbalance left behind, and then price could by all means, or should by all means, be willing to recover liquidity left behind here. But that's just it for gold right now. Now I'll say this, all right, for gold, especially this coming week, practice proper risk management. All right, this is still the week before NFP and many other things. All right, that are still factors that I think we should still be very, very cautious of, especially as it refers to gold right now. All right, for bullish entries, however, sorry, for bullish entries, apologies for that. For bullish entries, I said bullish. For bullish entries, I think we can hold this point here. Yeah, I think we can hold this point here. Extend this because this was previous resistance here. All right, so for bullish entries, I think I want to watch out for here. So basically just the break of the candle with the longest wick. All right, before that, would have acted at least as a sufficient zone for resistance previously, or as a sufficient supply region for price previously. Then that's before we had the impulsive candle breaking above it, right? So that is basically where I want to watch out for. Let me see if on the so if we look at it on the line chart, we also have the fact that this is still, I guess we can bring it down to maybe here. All right, for the sake of accuracy, something like this is still fair. All right, something like this is still fair. All right, so if you're watching out for bullish entries, I believe this is a very good region to watch out for. All right, between 3343.71 and 3337.13. All right, that'll be my bullish POI, my buy POI on gold. All right, so I believe that is clear for gold. I don't want to take too much time, like I said in this video. So let's just go to AUD CAD. That's the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. Now, very, very straightforward for this. Basically, from what we've seen so far, this guy has also been giving us bullish price action. All right. However, this week I still believe we might get to see we have a good chance to see this guy, give us some bearish moves, all right, at least from somewhere around here. So sell POI on AUD CAD between 0.90 284 and 0.90082. All right, between 0.90284 and 0.90082. That'll be my sell POI on AUD card. So basically, I'm still expecting a little bit of a push towards here, and then we get to see a drop. Let me quickly confirm that from what I can see on the daily time frame. Possibly yes, possibly yes. Like I said earlier, last week, we saw the fact that we have, we have trend and liquidity towards the downside. That price might be willing to then recover. Right, so I believe that this is something you can just want to watch out for. All right, on AUD card. All right, next up, let's see AUD CHF also. Now, this is not one that I trade so much. All right, but I saw something interesting, and I'll just love to share it with us briefly. All right, so for AUD CHF, something similar to what I just said for AUD card also. I'm expecting a buy to sell scenario. This is sell POI 1, and then this is going to be sell POI 2. Now, the reason why I'm going to be, or one of the reasons rather, why I'm giving us two sell POIs as it was, this right for this guy, all right, because I can see from the daily time frame we actually have a daily pivot that is resting somewhere there. All right, let me zoom in. If you can see that we have a daily pivot that is resting around there, and even though it has been tested in already, that means price has basically come into it once already. I still have the inkling, or at least I would still love to watch out for possible price actions when price does come into there again. All right, so that basically is it. So sell POI 1, which I believe looks more probable though. All right, it's between 0.52453 and 0.52328. Again, 0.52453 and 0.52328. Right, and then sell POI 2, which I believe if you're a conservative trader, you might want to, you might be more attracted to. All right, it's between 0.52660 and 0.52599. Sorry, 0.52559 rather. So that basically is it for AUD CHF. No long talk on that one, right? So AUD USD also something similar. I'm expecting a buy to sell, sort of move, all right, on this guy right now. Let me just quickly mark this out. This was at least, if we still work based off of correlation, I believe to some extent, we might be able to see something similar happen on this guy. Okay, so currently price is in, price is currently here. This is very, very strong. At least not necessarily so strong, but we have this being in an interesting pivot for us. All right, somewhere around here. And price basically seems to want to break it, or seems at least at the very least to break it. If I'm going to work based off of that, let me see 4 hour time frame. All right, so if I'm going to work based off of this, I think this would be a very, very conservative trade for me. All right, still working with this as the overall bias, a buy to sell, bias on AUD USD. So sell POI for me is between 0.65544 and 0.65391. 0.65544 and 0.65391 will be my sell POI on AU. All right, so by all means, like I've said already, you have to be very, very cautious this week. By all means, practice proper risk management. If at all you haven't, but if at all you haven't, I mean, what are you doing trading? All right, but let's just have that at the back of our minds. Then EA is another one that I think I've seen already, or that I want us to watch out for also together. Daily time frame EA, we've seen that price already give us a break above this high, or I mean that right now we've seen the completion of an impulse, all right, and then possibly price is giving us a retracement, all right. We've actually seen the impulse happening. Now we should have the retracement phase, right? So, and that basically is what you're seeing by this, current sell move, or this current sell, this current sell move basically. So I have about 2 things I think I'm seeing here, because I want to be very cautious. If we are seeing here, if I mark out this region as, the previous high that I was taking out, then the low that came, maybe after then would be somewhere around here for me. Will be somewhere around here for me. Right, so let me just mark out those 2 points. And I think if we're working with this, from this being our current swing high and this region here being our current swing, sorry, this being our current swing low rather, and this region here being our current swing high. Possibly let me plot, let me plot out fib. Let me plot out our fib first. So I think I can already see, an SBR pattern towards the downside that I might want to watch out for. But let me just plot the fib first, then we'll see if those 2 regions sort of coincide between the SBR and the Fibonacci region, or at least our Fibonacci key points. So for me, what I can see here on this time frame at the very least, all right, is that we have, let's say there's been a sweep, yeah, and then this possibly would be the break of the break here, and then So basically, we're expecting price to at least come towards the lower end here for the drop, right? And if that is what we're expecting, then by all means, I think we can also work with this region that we've seen, all right, from the Fibonacci region. So from the Fibonacci retracement. So all right, so for me, buy POI on this. I don't think I'm going to be very there might be sell re-entries, but before then, buy POI on this between 1.77918 and 1.77297. 1.77918 and 1.77297. That'll be my buy POI. This is a very, very, sort of broad. Sorry, give me a minute. Right. Oh, sorry. I guess that still works. That still works. So let's just have this here. All right, but basically what I'm watching out for before pricing, give us that drop. We'll have a sweep of this low. We have a sweep of this low, and then price would give us our buy from there. For possible sell re-entries, however, maybe I should come down to maybe the 2-hour or the 1-hour time frame. Let's see. Possible sell re-entries I'm seeing is basically it's far off right now. It's like price isn't even near it. I do not think that we're going to actually have any chance of seeing price coming. Nah, I really don't think we're going to see price come towards this region. Maybe anyway, maybe during the course of the week. But if I'm looking out for possible sell re-entries off of this guy, this would be my preferred region. That is as a more conservative approach. All right, so my sell POI would be around here. All right, my sell POI will be between 1.81456 and 1.81180. All right, so that's just it for Euro AD. Next up, I think I will be jumping to Euro USD, and then we'll do GA. Maybe GA or GU, anyone. Okay, GA. A comes before you, right? So we'll do GA next. But for Euro USD, I believe from what we can see here, from what at least I can see on my chart right now, this guy still is giving us the impression that he wants to drop. All right, still giving us the impression he wants to drop. On the daily time frame, we're actually in a very, very important pivot region, or at least a very important supply. All right, on the daily time frame, even on the 4-hour time frame, you'll still be able to see that quite clearly. And I think already from what we've seen, we've had one touch already inside that region, which is here. Right, we've had that one touch or price coming into that region and delete this. Right, we've had that one touch inside that region. Now, if I'm working based off of what we can see here, I would naturally assume that possibly that region is going to stop holding up, right? That region should be broken. But all right, but should bomb. All right, I think from what I can see here, I believe EU should still give us a drop. Actually, I believe EU still has reason to give us a drop towards the downside. For at least at the very least we have the imbalance that we are now. It doesn't mean that what I'm trying to say right now, rather, because you've seen an imbalance does not mean that price would at the very least or at that very moment come to recover it. Right? It could take weeks, it could take days, it could take months, maybe depending on the time frame. But all the same, it doesn't mean that price has any reason to come towards that imbalance and fill it up immediately. Right? But all the same, let's see. Okay. I think I'm still going to work with my sell bias on. I'm still going to hold on to the sell bias on EU for the meantime. Anyway, for the meantime, if I get to see pricing give us another break below here, then definitely that gives me an extra confirmation. But that's not something I see happening, at least maybe between today and tomorrow. That might take quite some time to fully materialize, right? To fully materialize. But that being said, let's see. Might we be able to get re-entries on this guy? There isn't one I can clearly see right now. But let's just put it like this. For the meantime, expect bearishness from Euro USD, and at the same time also be very, very cautious. You're looking out for bearish ranges, or you want to add more positions. Let's just see what happens between today and possibly the early hours of Wednesday. All right, or maybe the end of tomorrow. All right, at least we should have seen price give us that drop, and then maybe we can get a short retracement to give us a good re-entry position from. All right, so that's it. That's my current bias on EU. I think I'm still going to be fairly bearish right now on EU. All right, so let's move. Let us move. I hope I'm not too fast. If I'm too fast, just tell me I'm too fast. But that's just it. So GBP AUD. Let me start from the daily time frame. Right, GBP AUD from the daily time frame. Now, daily time frame, we've seen price giving us this rejection from at least giving us that that's the rejection. All right, from there already. All right, which was a previous high that basically hasn't been taken out. A high that basically is still holding up. We've seen two fair rejection counters that were formed inside that region, or telling us that region actually has some level of strength, and then we can still see it holding right now. All right, so I think for that being said rather, I would want to work with a bearish bias on GA for the current moment. However, for the current structure, from what we can see from current structure, price still seems to give us, or price still seems to be dropping. And if at all we're going to work out with re-entries, I believe this would be a fair re-entry to have at the back of our minds. A fair re-entry to have at the back of our minds. Yeah. I think I'll just hold on to this for the meantime. I think this is a fair, like I said, fair re-entry for us to have at the back of our minds. So sell POI on GBP AUD between 2.09000 and 2.08542. 2.09000 and 2.08542. That's my sell POI right now on GBP AUD. So I'm expecting a buy to sell off of this guy. Quite simple. Next up, let's do GU. Let's do GU. Most of the commodities I'm not doing right now is because I can't really see anything clear enough at the moment. All right, and I'll prefer to at least watch out for something a bit more concrete, all right, before giving us my bias on them. All right, but all the same, I believe these ones that I'm talking about are things that we can easily capitalize on and make good balls off of. Right, so that's that. That being said, let's go to GU. Right, for GU right now, I think GU also, like we said for EU, all right, it's still quite bearish, or at least giving us signs of bearishness. Again, we've had, I think this was possibly on the daily time frame here. So this is a daily pivot. This is one here, right? And then we have another one on the daily time frame, which is still quite far off. But I just marked it out, to keep for keepsake as a keepsake rather. I just want to at least have it marked down and then watch out for possible price actions when we get there. All right, but currently from what we can see on GU right now, this guy already has given us some level of reactions, or at least some level of inkling that it wants to drop. And I think right now we should still expect bearishness from GBP USD. Sell POI one already price has gotten there between 1.35499 and 1.35293. All right, I think right now if I'm going to work out for possible re-entries in case you missed this or the beginning of this move, possible re-entries, not one I can see on this time frame. Okay, for possible re-entries, if at all, this will be very risky. But let me just drop it. This one's going to be very risky, and it's not something that like I said, this is very risky. If you're unless you're quite confident in how aggressive you want to be, all right, please do not take this. Don't risk it on this. All right, but basically what I'm trying to say right now is for a possible sell re-entry, you can work with this, or you can just work with the break and retest. And note that you're going to, if you're holding that sell, maybe you're going to hold it towards this point, maybe towards here. But I think for the meantime, let's work with this. Definitely, though, from what I can see right now, I think my projection will still be for this guy to still drop a lot more, a whole lot more. But for now, let's just have this down. So for now, the sell re-entry or the sell criteria that I'm looking out for will be a break and retest of that region between 1.34964 and 1.34837. So a break and retest of that region, then I'll be able to look out for the sells from there. That will just be it for GBP USD right now. So let's just have that at the back of our minds. If at all this zone though ends up failing, then definitely I'm expecting price push up at least towards this point here. Down is between 1.36567 and 1.36325, but that's still quite far off, and I don't think it's something I'm going to be watching out for immediately, right now. Last but not the least for today's session is USD JPY. Now, I remember for the past like 2 weeks now, I've been talking about a possible sell on USD JPY from here. All right, and I actually missed that sell, little pips, by just a little margin, but all the same, it was a missed trade. Now, from what I can see here right now, however, I think for USD JPY, I'm going to still be working. I feel like I've explained something similar to this already on this call. All right, but for USD JPY, I'm basically working with this as my potential sell region. Now, I'm not going to be taking that trade, all right, immediately when I get to see price come here. I want to see price at least still pull up a little bit into here, if preferably, or if possible, possibly rather into the 50% of that region, and then we'll get to see the drop. All right, that's just a pivot that was broken by the impulsive candle, or by the strong imbalance candle as it was, and I just want to watch out for possible sell reactions from there. Yeah, a minute, I think. Nah. Okay. I think also around that region, because I can still see this. Sorry, I can still see this to this, right? And if I'm working with this will probably be the bulk of the region that we would love to play with, but that's quite large. That's quite a huge one to work with. So I think this will still work. All right, I still have some level of compliance with the SBL pattern that I am seeing right now there. So let's just work out, or let's just work with this for the meantime. All right, possible sells on UJ. And please, if you're taking this, I think it would be safer for you to take this for is as a a short-term trade, not something you might necessarily want to hold for the whole of the week. All right, so basically sell POI, like I said earlier. I've not called it rather, but sell POI between 147.976, sorry, 147.976 and 147.587. That'll be my sell POI. So you buy to sell sort of trade on USD JPY. All right, so with these few commodities I've called out and I've already explained my biases on. The biases. Interesting. I've explained my bias on anyone. All right. At the very least, I hope you gain value. All right. And I'll advise you, like I usually say, please by all means practice proper risk management. If possibly, or if possible, rather, correlate this with your entry criteria, maybe on the lower time frame or however you trade. All right. And I'm very sure you're going to have, or we rather are going to have a very, very, very profitable week ahead, guys. Catch us, I'll catch you rather, in our coming videos. Have a lovely rest of the week. Bye bye, guys.